My first guest is Australian. You haven't lived in Australia for a little while, have you, Barry?
No, not for 16 years.
This is Barry Long. You're now resident in London. What do you do?
I'm a spiritual teacher.
Who says you're a spiritual teacher?
I say.
So you decided that this is what you would do?
Well, lots of people listen to me. Lots of people's lives are changed by me. And I have the power to communicate the spirit and the truth to people and change their lives.
Now, that's a very tall order, isn't it?
Yes, but the fact is the fact.
You used to be a newspaper man?
Yes.
What sort of journalist were you? What sort of paper did you work on?
I was editor of the Sunday Mirror in New South Wales, Sydney. And I came up as a copy boy, a crime reporter, through politics, news editor, chief of staff, and then editor.
You see, I wonder, when you were a newspaper man, if you'd met a gentleman from another country who says, I am a spiritual teacher, I wonder if in your former incarnation you can imagine how you would have looked at that man.
Oh, yes, I would have been most intolerant of him, I should think. But I'd ask him a couple of questions. I would say, show me.
But isn't it a little difficult to show?
No, not if you ask the right questions.
All right. Well, I've been reading your book, which has one of the least... Well, it's called The Origins of Man and the Universe. Now, the big questions you've tackled, and you've tackled the biggest, and you've put them in one tome. To say that you know all that, some might say is arrogant.
What, to write a book?
Well, no, to write a book called The Origins of Man and the Universe, because as you must admit, it's a rather large topic, isn't it?
But it's either true or it's false. And I either know it or I don't.
Right. All right. In what tradition is your teaching? In what tradition are you a spiritual teacher? Because most people that I've spoken to on this program who have profound knowledge, they can trace their roots back. Where do you trace your roots back to?
My roots go to self-knowledge. My own self.
So it's not out of the Vedic tradition, it's not out of the Christian tradition, it's out of a tradition that's inside you.
Inside man.
Yes, that's what
I am not special, you see. I am man, which is man and woman. I am that, which you are, and I'm not special. So all that knowledge that I have inside of me is inside of you, if you can be still enough.
It's subtitled The Myth That Came to Life, and it took me... Well, I suppose I started looking at your book on Friday night, and I've gone through little bits of it from Friday and through till 20 minutes ago when I stopped. It took me that long because I was trained as a scientist. I was trained to be a crusty cynic. I was trained to be an experimentalist.
Yes.
And yours, you say at the beginning of the book, don't try and think, just let the words wash over you. Now, is this because, you see, at first I thought, well, here's a guy who thinks that he hasn't got sufficient clout to stand close scrutiny.
Yes.
Then I realised this was wrong, but it is a completely different mode of thought. Can you explain to those who don't know a little bit what will have to have gone on in my mind over the weekend in order to get to grips with what you're saying at all?
Yes. And what has happened in that book is that is a book of energy. As I say, I know the truth, and I speak the truth, and I change people. That can only be done energetically. It can't be done intellectually. You can't debate God, as I understand they're going to do on a radio program shortly. You can only know whether God or life exist. And you know that in yourself by being still, not by debating it. So you can't do anything intellectually. You only think you can. Not of this nature. So it's an energetic book. Now, the only way you can absorb energy is not to try to work anything out. Is to give up working it out. Be still. But listen. Listen to life. Listen to the birds. See the sky. See everything around you. Listen to everything. But don't try and work it out. And that is energetic existence. And that is existing energetically like the universe exists. Because the universe is within you. And the stiller and more energetically you exist as stillness, the more you are able to receive.
Does one have to deny, then, one's intellectual powers?
One has to recognize that they are a great limitation on one's understanding of life and death. Unless you understand that, you see, there's no one, all the books that are written, that truly understand life or death. But they are all written by the intellect, and the intellect doesn't know anything about life or death. It knows about life forms. It can study all the life forms on Earth and relationship. It can tell you how they exist, how they were born, but always as life form. Now, life is not life form. Life is life. And unless you understand death, you can't understand life.
Couple of sentences back.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm just going back a couple of sentences.
You're very, very tolerant.
You said that in order to know about God or life, I can't remember whether you said God and life or God or
God
life.
or life, God and life, they're the same thing.
But you were equating one with the other.
Yes. Yes, indeed. What else could it be?
So the fact that you are alive and the fact that I am alive and the fact that you are alive, he said, pointing digit out of radio, is itself proof of the existence of the Almighty.
It is Almighty, is it not? It's all you've got. Can you show me something else outside your life? Then you'll show me something that's outside of God. And you can't do that.
So when you are defining your term God, you are defining something internal rather than external.
Oh, of course.
You say, of course, but I mean, a lot of people would not follow you along
wouldn't
that
they?
line.
Because when they go to sleep, all that's external, which would be God, would disappear, and that's impossible. Because God is always with you. Or life. Let's use the word life, because God is a... People think of old men with beards and
yeah,
things
that's
outside.
right.
We use the word life. It's a beautiful thing. It's wondrous. And we're all excited by it. And that's what keeps us going and keeps you on that microphone there, is this joy of life, the joy of God. The joy of being.
No, what keeps me here is the joy of questing. You see, that's why when I find someone like you who says, I know, looks me straight in the eye and says, I know I am right. I mean, the only person I've seen look at anyone like that with the same conviction is our own dear Prime Minister. I mean, she's convinced she's right as well. But you're doing this on a totally different level. You are obviously a man who thinks that, who knows that he's solved it all.
That is so. I know the secret of death. Therefore, I know the secret of life. I have no more confusion in me. And I don't believe in anything.
You don't believe in anything?
Not anything do I believe in, no.
You know it. You don't believe it. You know it.
I know,